Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Hi guys, I'm Ali, founder of Bunq. Now you're probably wondering, what has Charlie Chaplin anything to do with one of the greatest speeches in, I think, history of mankind, with the future of banking? Hold on to that thought. Now, some weeks ago, I was asked to share my thoughts on the future of banking, and my mind started wandering off. What to say, since the subject is so huge? And I was thinking, and it suddenly struck me as I was driving back from a long trip from an old friend. An old memory came back to me. And I parked the car immediately on the side of the highway, and I started taking notes and writing everything down. And today, I would like to share my notes with you. This year, it's been 20 years ago that Fokker, a Dutch airplane company, went bankrupt. Back then, I was about 14 years old, and had already been actively trading stocks for a while. As the bankruptcy grew more and more imminent, there was this interview that I remember. An old lady was asked why she hadn't sold her stocks yet, given that they were plummeting on a daily basis. And she answered that she would hang on to her stock no matter what. At the time, this struck me as very odd, for it was quite clear that getting out sooner rather than later would be financially the most sensible point by far. But then she explained, some things are more valuable than just a return on investment. Yes, I invested in the company because I believed in its future returns. But I also invested in it because I'm proud to be a part of Dutch history. I invested in it because I think it's important for the Netherlands. I invested in it for the people to keep their jobs, for students to learn something about cutting-edge technology. And I remember thinking, what is she talking about? In my then young, immature, and silly mind, I had already judged her to be a non-rational investor, being naive and maybe even foolish. Back then, I never questioned my own motives. Investing in stocks was all about maximizing profits, right? Now that I'm somewhat older, I've started questioning those and other beliefs. The assumptions that once seemed to be cast in stone no longer seem to be so absolute now. I've been inspired by the change taking place around us. Many industries are fundamentally changing form. The food industry, for instance, is taking giant leaps in sustainability and animal welfare. We no longer only care about getting the maximum amount of chicken for the lowest possible price. We also care about its upbringing. Was it fed properly? What kind of life did it have? When we look at the energy sector, we see the same things happening. It's all about sustainability yet again. Yes, digging up oil is cheap and effective. Yes, putting gasoline in cars is a well-proven method of transportation. But do we really want to suffocate ourselves? Do we really want to suffocate our children? Luckily, we see rapid improvement there as well, moving towards sustainability through solar energy, wind energy, or whatever else. And there are many other industries that have followed suit by reducing water wastage, carbon emissions, etc., etc., etc. As I was looking around, it occurred to me that this is happening everywhere except for banking. As we've seen ethics move into more and more commercial companies, the banks have been lagging behind consistently. Politicians have tried to remedy this behavior. In the Netherlands, for instance, they forced bankers to take an oath, which some bankers seem to do with a cynical smile. Yes. Or when laws came into effect to limit the height of bonuses, a lot of bankers went around it by getting huge raises instead. We've seen fraud, we've seen greed, we've seen unprecedented egocentric behavior. Now you know it wasn't always like this. There was a time that banking was by the people and for the people. Some peasants came together to lend each other money so they could buy equipment to farm more effectively, and in doing so, provide society with more food. This all brings me back to my story about the old woman and Charlie Chaplin. Was she right in investing in a tanking company? I still don't know. But that's not the point. For I think now more than ever it's important to ask ourselves the right questions. What kind of world are we living in? How did we get here? Are the assumptions that led us here still valid? It is Charlie Chaplin that helps us remind ourselves that it is us who create our own future. We're not simply passengers of a bus driving through the journey of life. Each of us is in their own driver's seat. And so we can start asking ourselves other questions. What kind of world do we want to live in? How are we contributing to it? What's missing and how can we get there? It's these questions that lead to my fundamental belief that what we do matters. The choices we make matter. What stuff we buy matters. Where we buy it matters. The job we do matters. The way we treat our family and friends matters. The way we treat our neighbors matters. The way we treat our guests, even if they're from abroad, matters. In my life, Meester Jan, my elementary school teacher, has been a great example of how much a seemingly small choice can matter. 27 years ago, I arrived here as a guest. I was placed at a horrible school across town where nobody spoke Dutch. A place where I was considered to be a below-average student even before I had started. There was a moment of luck. My mother happened to walk in a school just a couple of 100 meters away. And there she met Meester Jan. He stood up and questioned the then common thought by asking, why should a child from this neighborhood be placed all the way across the city? To him it seemed very foolish to do so, and so it was through his conviction to do something about it that I was allowed to swap schools. With his act of kindness and through his perseverance, he changed the course of my life. Just a few weeks later, I was surrounded by people who did speak Dutch in a school where you actually did get taught. A school that I could walk to myself instead of having to take transportation every day. Today I would like to thank Meester Jan for his grace and his courage. To me, he is the embodiment of what a huge difference each and every person can make. Some years ago, I felt it was now my turn to make a difference. It was clear to me that a huge change was needed and still needs to take place in banking, and I decided to take up on that challenge. Amidst the doom and gloom of the financial crisis, I founded Bunq, based on a very simple idea, that banking could be so much better. Very quickly, I was fortunate enough to find a group of people, some of them are here today, that felt the same way. Bunq is untainted by events of the past and is the first true alternative in banking in a very long time. In the few months that we've been available, this has led to tens of thousands of users. This in turn has given us the great opportunity to have a better understanding of their desires and needs so we could cater to them better. Slowly but surely, we're heading back to the old ways, to the days where banking is yet again in service of the people. And we're going there with a profound belief that we can go there together. Thank you.